welcome to NatureBacked, Anete. Tell us in a few words, what is 1MTN?
Hi, thank you so much for having me here. So 1MTN is a high quality carbon credit developer. We are restoring degraded lands in Africa, and we are using a very interesting niche tool called bamboo. So we are planting bamboo on a degraded land and also implementing different biodiversity monitoring practices along the way. And this is the holistic approach for the land restoration, what we are at the moment developing.
Uh, Niche thing called bamboo. I've understood bamboo is relatively common around the world.
Yes, it is relatively common. There are also different carbon credit projects with the bamboo at the moment already happening in Africa. And why I'm saying niche is that bamboo is having a very large, impactful value chain, and there is so much that you can do out of the bamboo. So that's
Mm.
why we see that there are some different niches, for example, biochar, furniture, fabric, paper, and it's very impactful for the local
Uh,
communities.
you are you are calling in from Uganda. The That's the home base for
Yes,
you these days, right?
yes, correctly. Correctly. I'm now calling in from Kampala. That's the capital city of Uganda. And my apologies if you don't hear me so good, but I will try to do my best.
It's the connection between the different continents. Eventually, the show will be listened to by people from all the continents. So we've all kind of come across with the phone connections and the phone lines. That's totally understandable. But how did you guys end up in Uganda?
So I would say that by luck, I found my co-founder, Christian, in Estonia, and he introduced me to Uganda. And these kind of activities that we are doing at the moment in Africa, I was advising and doing in Latvia. We, of course, the tree species was different. It was not bamboo, but it was birch tree.
Mm.
And when once we started talking and chatting with Christian about the impact and the scalability of those kind of projects, we decided that actually that we see that there are a lot of opportunities and also a lot of big impact opportunities if we move the similar activities to Africa. So this is how we landed in Uganda.
Mm. These days, is it only Uganda, or are you already operating in the other countries too?
So we have been operating already in for some time. We are not operational, but we are very familiar with Kenya. Of
Mm.
course, we have the upcoming countries in our pipeline. Unfortunately, I cannot disclose the next ones, but of course, we are
Mm.
keeping our eyes open.
Tell a little bit about the kind of on the ground work. How does it happen? What do you actually do?
So it actually happens is that the groundwork, let's call it like that, happens when we collect the coordinates of the place where we'd love to establish our project, because we have our in-house site species matching tool. Of course, the carbon credit projects has different requirements, and we are following all of them, meaning that in our project we are using degraded land. So we need to analyze the land cover, what we will be having in our project. So it starts with the satellite analysis about the land. Then, second of all, if we see that this land is suitable for the project, we start the second analysis about the bamboos. We are
Mm.
only using native or naturalized bamboos. We have our own in-house site species matching tool, meaning that we find the right species which to plant on our land. We are using mosaic approach, meaning that different species planted in different patches, and and this is a part of our forestry plan. So it actually starts with the satellites, not only with the on the ground operations. Of course, after that one, we are going more in details. We are taking soil sampling. We are doing the land due diligence for the leasehold, establishing our operations, working together with the seedling nurseries. So it actually is quite quite long process
Mm.
how to open up the new instances for our project. It's not so easy.
This typically in the media in the Western world, especially, there's a lot of criticism about the how the developing kind of the carbon projects in developing countries are, I don't know, created or managed, or how do you usually respond to this kind of the articles? I mean, I'm sure there is all kind of different projects in the world.
Yeah, yeah, and I think the my best response is that people need to dig deeper into the facts and into the activities. Yes,
Mm,
there was a very bad period for voluntary carbon markets some years ago, but I must also admit that I'm working with the voluntary carbon markets already for 6 years. I have
mm,
seen a shift last year after the biggest scandals what Vera was facing, and the shift has been rapid.
mm,
Companies are putting up higher standards. Digitalization, transparency is the key thing. So at the moment when I'm actually seeing some articles, sometimes I see that there's a miscommunication and maybe also not understanding the topics what actually some people are writing about.
mm,
So it can be looked in the two ways.
mm. And
You
I'm
need
sure.
to take time to understand the voluntary carbon market. It's very difficult and it's a new knowledge for a lot of people.
Mm. And surely some of this is also related to the projects which are relatively old, right?
Yes, correct,
Mm,
correct. And there are different types of the projects. And as we are operating on a carbon removal side, meaning that we are establishing operations from the zero, we are
mm,
not the same as a protecting, for example, a national park and then receiving credits.
mm,
So there are differences, and mostly the criticism has been in areas where there was a conservation project, where there was Red Plus project. So it's a
mm,
bit different than we are operating.
mm. The other part is the classical challenges of, who owns the land or who owns the rights of the land. It seems in many countries, probably also in Uganda, you don't have a digital registry where all the ownership structures would be clearly visible.
Yeah, that's true. And this is the most important sector. Land sector digitalization is actually the one what needs to be taken care not only in Uganda but a lot of African countries. I would say
Mm,
this is the most painful part and also the biggest opportunity for different service providers.
mm,
Let's look at it this way. In Uganda, the land tenureship is quite easy to grasp, is there is different land tenure systems. 1MTN, we are not buying the land, we are leasing the land,
mm,
and we are leasing titled land, meaning that private landowners are having a land title. Of course, we are double checking because uh, Africa faces a lot of land grabbing and
mhm,
different issues because of there is a lack of this digitalization and transparency.
mm,
But it surely will be getting there. I
mm,
see a lot of developments in institutions and yeah, partnerships in between the countries, and yeah, a lot can happen in the upcoming years.
mm. You talked a little bit about bamboo, but maybe to go a little bit deeper into the topic, um, why bamboo?
So when we started 1MTN's journey in Africa, I think that the most important part for me and Christian was to create the impact as much as possible. And then we
Mm,
wanted to understand what does an impact means for us. And one topic is that, yes, the carbon credit project, it talks about carbon removals, but it's not only about carbon sequestration in the end of the day. We wanted to see community involvement. What kind of benefits people actually living nearby this kind of projects could get. And the bamboo was very interesting finding for us because it is very good in carbon sequestration. You can compare it to the mangrove, and those who are familiar with the voluntary carbon market knows that the mangrove projects last year was the ones which trended very well because of the rate of the carbon sequestration. So I can say that bamboo is quite similar, but there are a lot of benefits because bamboo is considered also as sustainable timber. You need to take care of the bamboo plantations, and you need to take care of the healthy cutting along the way. So meaning that you are actually getting a sustainable biomass for the local communities, what they can afterwards use in their value chain.
You talk about communities. Tell us in few words or describe how do you actually kind of work with a local community?
Yeah, so every project is completely different. Our current setup for our operational project in Uganda, where the community is coming in, is that once we started our operations and also after we discovered that this land could be used by us, we immediately started public participation process, meaning that every carbon credit project requires certain stakeholder consultation process. In
Mm.
our case, it was public consultation. In local language, it's called baraza, and this is where we invite local leaders. There are different positions from the local perspective, who are the local leaders, and then of course people who were living on the land title residue area, meaning that they are either on the land or nearby. They were all welcomed into public participation process. And how we are including this community is that first of all we are informing them what we will be doing. Second of all, we have also a foundational arm in our project. Certain percentage of our revenues is going from the carbon credit sales is going to the our foundation, and we have different parts of foundation aspects that we want to support in the local area. For example, access to the healthcare, access to the education, learning sustainable agricultural practices, access to the sustainable energy, green energy. And this kind of benefits, we asked local community in this public participation process to map them out, basically what they would love, what is their needs, and what is the prioritization with their needs. This is how the communities are going into our project.
Mm.
So, and interesting enough is that when the public participation process was closed, they actually mapped out that access to the water is the first need, and we already did that even without any carbon credit sales. Community got access to the water, and then different benefits. They also mapped out, for example, bridge on the road, access to the charging stations for their phones, or for bicycles for kids to go to school. So
Mm.
different needs, and we see that the best approach is to have clear engagements with the communities. They have also representatives from their side, which are
Mm.
communicating with us on a daily basis, and we are involving them in the process.
Mm. And I understand that during the planting time, you're relatively big kind of employer, right?
Yes, yes, correct. Of course, we have our own local operational team. Mostly, these are trained people who are living nearby, meaning that we already have a permanent jobs
Mm.
in our plantation instance. Then we have seasonal jobs in the planting season, and these are hundreds of people.
Mm.
Which are maintaining the land, which are preparing the land, and then also the planting. And then, interesting enough, is that at the moment we are also accounting for indirect jobs, because if we see for example, bamboo seedling supply,
Mm.
when we started our operations in Uganda, bamboo seedling nurseries didn't have enough of supply, meaning that we actually pre-invested in some of them. We created the quality standards. We are monitoring them, but these seedling nurseries are also employing more people
Mm.
because they didn't have the working capacity to take care of our ask.
Mm.
So we see that there is also indirect jobs.
Mm. Even though you're still a relatively young company and a relatively small company.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. But even though that's the biggest instant bamboo plantation in whole East Africa already.
Wow. Sounds great. Um,
Yes, we are very proud.
the name of the company, 1MTN. 1 million ton nation.
Donation, yes.
How far are you on that road towards million tons?
I don't want to disclose this one now, but we are getting closer.
Really?
We are getting
Wow.
closer. Our dreams are high, and with an upcoming project, I hope that we will be close enough to,
Okay.
yeah, to
And
achieve our dreams.
yes, and the next growth phase is changing the company's name to 1BTN.
Yes, definitely. Why not?
But on a more serious note, looking ahead, I don't know about the 6 or 12 or 18 months frame. What are the big milestones you're targeting or approaching?
So our company has a very clear but also a very big motto. We want to restore 1 million hectares of degraded land by year 2030.
Hmm.
And by having our operations and looking at the way how we can scale up, we believe that we can do it. So 1 million hectares by year 2030. That's the current.
That's quite a lot compared to our home countries.
Yes, yes. Of course, this is also the reason why we see that making our operation scalable. Of course, it's much easier in the countries where we are operating at the moment
Mm.
because of the land degradation and also the land availability for the project.
You have been organizing and participating in a lot of events talking about the carbon opportunities for Africa. If you would kind of try to, I don't know, summarize where we are on that road or what could be those biggest opportunities, what would you say?
We are still developing the frameworks of the climate regulations in all of the East African countries, and in Africa in general, only few countries has passed the law, and we still see a huge investment gap into the climate financing, and it's not because these projects at the moment operating in Africa would be uninvestable. It's because of the capital providers. I would say that they don't have so much insight about the operation facilities and specifics in those countries. So, participating specifically in those events is that we are bringing clarification on the table. We are showcasing opportunities that there are different projects and the needs are this, the risks are this, and we are taking care. So there are still a lot of opportunities in digitalization. Yes, and different financing schemes for those type of the projects. So capital at the moment is the biggest need for all of us in this space, and now we need to unlock it. So we need to work together with different stakeholders and just find a way how to do it. Where we
Mm.
need digitalization, we need to bring it. Where we need different financing products, we need to find out and just implement them.
How much of the I don't know carbon community there is already in the on the continent or in the region around you?
It's quite actually I would say quite big. Of course, we see that Kenya is the most active one among them all.
Mm.
A lot of international companies advising and of course developing, but the biggest not surprise, but the positive effect is that a lot of local people locally are understanding carbon markets much better, developing solutions which are needed. For example, monitoring solution what can help a farmer,
Mm.
or payment service. So the local community is also growing. It's learning, but it's growing.
Mm. I've understood that the basically carbon credits and as a project developer getting carbon credits from the project takes quite a long time. Is that one of the challenges of this financing gap, or is there ways
Yes,
to
of
solve it?
course. Yes, of course. Yes, of course, because the carbon project certification is basically risk management for all the all the carbon credit buyers and also the capital providers. So we have a certain stages of in our process. We have a validation audit, which is the first audit when you are putting your project to the carbon standard, and an auditor says that yes, you can trust this project and it will issue carbon credits in the future. Then we have verification audit coming in when you have already implemented your activities, carbon has been sequestrated, and then you issue the carbon credits. So yes, this takes time. Also, the knowledge still in the market is very new, meaning that first of all, there are not so much carbon project developers which can really handle the establishment. Meaning the fact that I was also saying that in the last year the requirements for in the carbon markets became stricter. Then we need a lot of satellite analysts, GIS, and etc. At the moment in the carbon project development. Only few of them have been working in the carbon markets as it is. So meaning that we need to grow human capital in this to really make it happen. And this is where the delays are coming in because of unavailability of the specialists, because of the unavailability and delays in the carbon markets standards, meaning that they also have their own process how they're following up. Sometimes it's delayed because we have a lot of new upcoming projects coming in. Yeah.
Any concluding remarks to wrap up the discussion?
I think that if we are looking at the voluntary carbon market, first of all, we need to be open-minded and we need to see opportunities because there are a lot, and we need to trust the carbon market. So I think that's the opportunities, and trust is the thing what I would love to conclude this one, and give also maybe a hint that there's a lot that we can learn new about the carbon markets, and I encourage everybody to just look it up.
Good. Thank you so much, and good luck, Anete.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the NatureBacked podcast. We hope you enjoyed our conversation and gained new insights into the intersection of nature and business. If you liked what you heard, please subscribe, rate, and review our podcast on your favorite platform. You'd be surprised how much this means for us at NatureBacked. To stay connected, subscribe to NatureBacked newsletter on LinkedIn and visit naturebacked.com for more updates and exclusive content. Until next time, stay curious and stay green.
For those of you who dream of a world where music and podcasts live together in perfect harmony, now for the first time, Electricast gives you a magical compilation, Pod Till You Drop, Volume 1, where we give you the best in tunes and the best in podcasts. Feast your ears and hear the culture. Available now wherever you listen to music.
Everyone has heard about the U.S. space program, but what is actually going on at NASA? Get the real story in 4 minutes or less with the NASA Daily Podcast from Electricast. Join astronauts and researchers as they conduct groundbreaking experiments, work on the International Space Station, and reach for the stars. NASA Daily, your cosmic update.
Electricast.